So let's put our album pieces together, the first stage in our building up the album and project. So I've got my 2 pieces of A4 card. A4 in the UK is 8 1/4 by 11 3/4, but I know in the US it's 8 1/2 by 11. Both will work, but you do need an extra piece, that's why we've got that cut out. And I've prepped that by putting score tape down both sides, edges, and 2 strips down the middle as well. So I'm going to try this album out using score tape. Here in the UK we can get it from Isabel at Scotch Lodge Farm in Northampton, and her blog is Fairies in the Garden, so I'll put that underneath the video. So I'm going to join the pieces together, just using the width of the tape as my spacer. Stick that one on. Oops. Trying to line the edges up as best I can, like that, and then that gives us that width to be able to work on with our album. And then the next thing to do is to place your spine centrally in the gap that you've got. So I've overlapped 1/2 inch, that's the width of the tape, and now I'm just sticking that spine piece down. Now the next thing to do is to prep your chipboard just by putting strips of tape along them, and that holds the card to the chipboard and makes for a really nice cover. But of course you've got to peel all of the little bits off. So let's do that. I really don't like this. I think that's why I use tacky glue lots. Oops. So that's one piece. I'm just going to do them both. Oops. It's very sticky. The nice thing about the score tape is you've got about ½ an hour flexibility, so you can lift things up before it really takes, and then everything is stuck forever. So we're giving it a try. The next thing to do is to cut yourself a shim out of 2 pieces of chipboard, stick them together, and that acts as your spacer between your pieces, and you need that space to give your album the flexibility to close. So I'm just butting my shim right up against the spine piece, and now I'm sticking the cover down, lining up the top and bottom edge. I'm sort of giving it a little bit extra space. So what you don't want is for your spine to rip when you're folding up your book. It shouldn't do if you're using card. It does sometimes with some of the scrapbooking papers. Right, let's line the second one up and stick it down, and then really press it down firmly just to attach the 2 pieces together. And then, as for all of the albums, you want to mitre your corners, and you cut your card diagonally so that you've got about 1/8 of an inch between the corner of your chipboard and the edge of the card. That gets rid of some of that bulk in the corners. So let's turn it round. Do that for each corner. If you want to trim the ends down, the narrow ends down a little bit, if you feel you've got too much sticking out over the edge, do. And let's bring it back. I know you can't see all of it, but it is here. It's quite wide. I thought we'd go wide this time. So the next thing to do is take your tape and, starting along one of the longer edges, right at the corner, put tape all the way across. And I'm also going to put tape on the card as well, towards the edge. This is another test because I'd normally use tacky glue, but I'm intrigued to see whether this tape holds the card in place. So let's press that down, lift up. Lift that, whoops, that's stuck. And then I always work with the edge furthest away from me, the longest edge furthest away. I'm going to lift the album up, fold it back on itself to lift up that edge around the chipboard, and then starting in the middle, pull the card over and stick it down. And you can pull it over quite tightly. Stick it down that way, and then let's move along and do the same on the other piece. But I always start in the middle to make sure that that spine is nicely covered. So that's the top edge. Then we're going to turn it round. Seems to be sticking well. Let's see what it does in a little while. Right, now we're going to do the same again all the way across, so tape on your chipboard right up against the edge, and then tape on, oops, which edge am I starting on? Opposite edge. Tape on the card right up against the edge. This will all be hidden eventually. Smooth those down and let's peel them up. I lost two of my nails. I apologise for my two index fingers. The nails have broken and gone, and I can't have false ones put on. I'm not keen on them myself, so we've got to wait for them all to grow back. So pull that really firmly, start in the middle again and work from the centre outwards, just pulling it over and sticking it down really tightly. A brayer is good to really firm those edges down as well if you've got some lumps and bumps. It really does flatten everything. I'm just going to do mine with my finger. And then you can fold up your pieces and start that crease going. And then on the other side, turn it over and just make sure that your seams are stuck fast. By pressing them. So there is the top and bottom done, and now we're going to do the same with the sides, but first we're just going to ease that little bit of card sticking out over the chipboard down so that it just covers that corner. I do it with my fingernails, you could do it with your scissors, the back of a ruler works. It just makes for a very neat finish. And then I'm going to put tape on the chipboard, on the card here, and then a piece. Take off those backing strips. Easier said than done, come along. Actually this tape is very good for getting those backing, for lifting the backing papers. And then I'm going to do the same again. I'm just going to start the fold going and then really pull it over onto that chipboard, and then you get a really neat cover. Just make sure that you haven't got any tape sticking out at the edge, like I have, a little bit. I'll get rid of that. And then turn it round and do the same again. So just force that card in over the edge of the chipboard and flatten it down, and then do the same on the other side. Cover that corner, put your tape on, but put it on your little card piece rather than the chipboard, and then you won't have any tape sticking out at the sides, top and bottom, edges. Peel off. Lift it up on its end and just start that fold, and then really pull it back on itself and stick it down. And that's it. That's our binder ready to go. Quite wide. We've got a lot of pages to put in, so let's do the page mounts for the pages next. So let's just move the binder out of the way. You should have a small one, second size, third size, and the largest one, and also just a flat piece of card that isn't scored. So we're going to put that to one side, start with the smallest one, put your score tape on the back or your glue just on that spine piece, and then lay it over the top of the second sized one, match up the top and bottom edges, and you should have a 1/4 of an inch, if you flatten them out, 1/4 of an inch showing either side of the edges of the first one. So when you're happy that you've got that distance and your mounts are straight, stick it down and then turn over, put score tape on the back of that centre spine piece of piece number 2. Make sure you haven't got any score tape sticking out over the top edge, and again line it up top and bottom. It's really important that you get this as straight as you can, because this is what the pages are going to hang on, and if this is wonky then your pages will sit wonky in your album. And then I like to just lift those centre spines and really force down that joint like that. So flatten them all out again, turn over and do it again. So tape on that centre section. This is 1/2 inch tape, so I've put 3 strips. Bring piece number 4 in and line up your top and bottom edge, your side space, and when you're happy, stick it down, and then just work each of those layers, sticking the tape together, and also just sharpening the folds as well. And then bring your flat piece in, and we're going to stick the whole thing onto this. So this time I've put 4 strips of tape down the spine centre of piece number 4. Let's take those off. 2 of them are right up against that fold, and then 2 are just in the middle. And then you just need to line up your top and bottom edges. This piece is slightly smaller than the spine, but just line your edges up like that. Make sure that it's straight. and then just work that joint again so the tape can stick. So we've got 8 pages in this album again. Lift them all up and then turn that piece right over, and you want to put tape all the way around and then 2 pieces in the middle. Or tacky glue if you're using that. And the reason it goes all the way around, certainly at the top edges, is to give a really nice join when you look down onto the top of your album. Just sticks it really nicely and keeps it firm, because this piece is going to take all the weight of the book. So let's bring our album back in. Here it is. And this is 1/2 inch narrower than the book, so you've got 1/4 inch to play with top and bottom. And what you need to try to do is centre up, you could draw a little line if you wanted to, the centre of your spine piece. If you just draw a pencil line top and bottom, and then you can line up the spine section with that pencil line and stick it down into place. And then once again just work those joints. It's pushing that tape at the back onto the album cover and just making sure that it's really well joined. Adhered, I should say. And then take your ruler and just push it into the crease and fold up your cover. And do that both sides. And then that just pushes the card into the fold and gives you a neat binding. So then just work it, fold it backwards and forwards, and check that you've got a really nice tight join here and at this end as well, and that you've got no tape sticking out like I have. And that's it. That is our album ready to put our pages in. So we'll put that to one side and come back and start to build up the pages. I wanted to take you through how I made the cover without writing instructions down, just because there's a lot of cutting into just one sheet of paper. So the base paper I've used is the Humpty Dumpty paper, the 8x8 in the green. So, and I've cut that at 5 3/4 inches, so it's 8 inches by 5 3/4. So let's put that one to one side for a minute, and then get your Mother Goose signature sheet and cut it like this. I'm going to leave that there just for a few minutes so that you can stop the camera and just see what I've done, but I'll talk you through what we need. So first of all, I cut through this top left hand side through the word above. That gives us a piece that's long enough. So no, what did I do? Above the. Cut through the word the on the top left hand side and cut down to cut off that black stripy border, and around the tree and around Humpty Dumpty, down to the flowers, around the red one, the blue one and the yellow one, down to the black and white border, and then cut along it, just keeping that little red flower in, to the corner. So you cut that section out completely, and then cut across the star, and I've sort of cut a diagonal down to the edge of the paper there, but I've also just cut across that star there to the blue border, because this piece is going to fit in here like that. Okay, so let's move that one out of the way. So we've cut all the way around Humpty Dumpty. Then for Mary, Mary quite contrary, no, that's wrong. Mary had a little lamb. I knew her name was Mary. It's a long time since I've read these stories. I've cut up past the hedge, around the top of the cow. There is a line, it's a hedge line, up around Mary, down to the path. There is a line here to go across there and around those red flowers to the black border and down, and then keep those leaves in. Cut round those, so cutting off your corner here. Keep the leaves in and go all the way along and cut. You can carry on cutting straight to here, but then you need to cut up past the little white flower and then cut around the sheep's legs right to this one here, cut down there, so that that becomes a flap, and then up around the sheep as well. Okay, because those are going to fit together like that for our width. Then you can take this piece away, and then you've got your bottom border, and cut 2 cuts either side of the star here, because this one is also going to fit under here. It does. Like that, and then the yellow goes under like that. So we are just using the blue border, but we're using the yellow part to stick everything together. And then when you get to this end, when you've got your border and everything lined up, so we have to just cover, the red star covers the black border on both sides. Just draw yourself a pencil line from the bottom left hand corner of the star to the corner of the paper, and that miters that corner as well. And then you can cut it, take it all apart, so cut it at a diagonal and then just cut it straight. So you're cutting through the red border, through the blue border, and then straight just left of the word star. So those are the pieces. I hope you got that. I didn't want to stick Humpty Dumpty down flat, so what I've done is very carefully I've just raised him just with my fingers. You could use a stylus, and you just go, where is my stylus? Where has it gone? It's gone. I'll use the back of my scissors just to show you. Just round very, very gently around his body and head, just in a circular motion, and that just stretches the paper. And then I'm going to put some foam tape on the back of there so that he stays raised. So let's just cut some pieces. I just use a strip of foam tape. Let's move these out of the way. So I'm going to put a little one just up behind his head, but I'm not going to put them horizontally. I'm going to put them vertically like that, and then one just there, so that when you turn him over, that will always stay just a little bit raised, and then we'll stick just the very edge of his head down. and then that stops it from getting caught if you're putting the book on a shelf next to other things. And I've also done the same with Mary. She's raised too, so I've turned her over and just stretched her a little bit. Really nice paper to do this with, and I did the same with her hat as well. So I'm going to put just a strip of foam tape straight down the middle of her, like that, and then a tiny little bit on her hat, again just in the middle, like that, so that when we stick all of these pieces down, again she is slightly raised. I've inked all the edges just with vintage photo. Let's just do that one there, and now we're going to put it together. So the first thing to do is we're going to line this piece up and stick it down. So I'm going to use tacky glue to do that, because that will hold it into place as we build things up. Let's just smooth that down. This did take quite some working out, but it was worth it. I think it's a really nice cover for the album. So line up your black and white border with the bottom of the star, and then the edges right up against that blue border. So there we are. Oh, something else I didn't tell you. When you've shaped your egg, just crease right next to his head there, and just down next to his body. Just a gentle crease, and then the paper sits flat, he's raised up, and then the paper goes flat again. Let's just crease him a little more there. So again, it gives it some dimension rather than him being completely flat. Right, let's stick this bottom border under here. So when you do that, you want to just put the whole yellow border right underneath, match up your mitered corners, and we're only going to stick him part way along because we want to poke this underneath. So we'll start to secure that one. So just a little bit of glue, just this end. And match those up. I should match up. Stick that down first. Glue doesn't want to move for some reason. So if you get your corners straight, everything else should be straight. Remove any glue. Like that. And then take your Mary section, and the green cow goes underneath, the black spotty border goes underneath, and that little red flower goes under the sheep's legs, and it just butts up. And then match your bottom up again, so that we get to the corner along here, and then just lift the star up over the leaves so it does all fit. Shall I just zoom in a little bit and you can see it? So there it is. That's what you're aiming for. And that, let's bring the original one back in, is a smaller version of, let's put it on there, there's a lot going on there, isn't there? Just a condensed down version of that lovely picture on the signature sheet. Still keeping the borders, and it's got some dimension now. So the next thing to do is to stick these pieces together. So line up your bottom edge, if you can. Don't worry if it just lifts a little bit. I'm going to hold it this time. No, I'm not. I'm going to put a little bit of glue under here. If I can poke a little bit in without it going everywhere. Oh, making a right mess. Let's just get that off. It is fiddly. Oops. And I do want to just line those black and white stripes up. The paper does have a little bit of stretch in it, so we can just stretch it so that everything fits, make sure that it's stuck, and then it will stretch back again when we stick it onto the front cover of our book. Right, now let's just stick that little flower down there. So a little bit of glue on there. Stick it down again, matching the border. I trimmed the border so that I had white square meeting white square. Okay, and then we've just got to stick this bit. And then once it's all stuck, it can be taped on the back. So let's lift the star up again, just slot him round, and then just stick that into place there. And that's it. That is our cover piece finished. So now I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to put double-sided tape over the pieces just to join them all together. And also that will help stick it to the base paper as well. So let's just go down there. There's lots of overlaps. Go down there. What's happening here? Little overlap there. So now we can bring our green paper back in. Let me give you the measurement for this top edge so that you can trim it. Our album cover is 7 inches and we want this to be 6.5. So then what you need to do is just measure up this left hand edge and trim to 6.5. So let me just do that in the guillotine paper trimmer. I'll be back 1 minute. Right, cut most of it. There's a few layers there, so I just want to be careful. I have to stand up when I cut paper, it's very strange. Ink that edge, and then we want the green paper to sit under the tree, but we want this edge here, the black edge, to sit on it too, so it just fits. And the things that we're going to stick down is this corner and this corner up here. So I'm going to turn it over and peel off the bottom tape down here, if I can. Perhaps So I'll have to just peel off the bits that are in between the stripes. Not stripes, strips. We're having another doolally day. Okay, so I know that I want it to line up with here, and I know I want it to line up with that top edge. So perhaps best to do the left, oh I don't know, it's really fiddly, I don't know which side to do first, but let's go for it. Top edge. I'm only going to attach it just lightly, turn it over, and then just check that the stripes are okay. So what that's done now is put the background on and given us some dimension so that our characters aren't flat, but it's given us a nice background to put our wording on. So now I know that's okay, I can stick it into place properly, and I'm just going to do that with some score tape down that edge there, and then I'm going to put score tape all the way around it because we're ready to stick it onto our book. I'm going to put one across the middle so that I know it's held down on the cover, and we've got one, we need one along the bottom edge. There's a lot of taping going on. Like that. And one up here. And then let's just peel these edges up and we'll do one down there as well. And one down here. And then it won't be going anywhere, it will be really well stuck. So let's bring our album cover back in. And the whole thing sits really nicely on the cover. It's a bit difficult to work on the cover because we've got nothing inside it, so let's flatten it out. So I want it to sit with a black border all the way around, top and bottom, like that. Let's zoom out because you can't see. Okay, so now I'm going to take my tape off and stick it down. I'll take the backings off. Easier said than done, I have to put it down flat. You don't have to follow what I've done, of course, you can put your own front cover together. This one is particularly complicated, but it looks good, I thought so. Okay, I'm just going to ink my green edges. I haven't ripped anything on this book, on this cover piece either. I've just kept it completely flat, again, just so that it doesn't rip any further. So the one thing I haven't done is taken the backing tapes off the characters, so I'm just going to do that, she says. That's easier said than done now that they're... I can't show you. I don't want to put the piece down, so I'm just going to have to do it with them facing me. Can't put the piece flat because it will stick, but we do need to take the tapes off, so... Okay, that's just coming off. Humpty Dumpty. I'm only going to take one of the tapes off the back of him and leave the other two unstuck. I'll stick them down in a minute. Right, now we're ready to put it onto the cover. So, have I done those edges? I'm obsessive about my edges. Right, we're done. I'm ready to go on our cover. So I'm going over the seam that we've got on the left hand side and just lining it up, trying to line it up, top and bottom, and sticking it down. And then I'm going to put my hand underneath and just press the characters into place. Humpty Dumpty, I'm just going to put a tiny little bit of tacky glue under his head, just right at the very edge, and then I'm just going to press him down and just catch that where it's got the glue underneath, just so that he does stick there. And then the same with Mary's hat, if I can get it. Perhaps not. Oh yeah. So let's just put a little bit on my finger and put that under there. A bit more. Stick it down. And the same this side. Come on, hat. Up. And then that will stop it peeling up. So the characters are on. The font I've used for the wording is the Once Upon a Time decorative strip. It's the Alterations Tim Holtz one. And I'm going to call it Remember When, as you know. So let's work out what's what and put the letters on. Let's get them the right way round. And spell the words right. Not easy when you're working upside down. Well, get the letters in the right place. Nice paper to work on if you're putting wording on and you want it to be straight because you've got lines of dots. So let's just make sure that they're all in the right way and they're running along the dots. And these are just cut out of black card, and then I put glossy accents over the top of them once they were stuck on. That's it. So that's my album cover. I hope you enjoyed putting that one together, and we'll see you back in the next video for our next page.